everyone, and welcome to another Dwarven Tavern review. As you can see, we got quite a haul from Gen Con, so we're going to try and get it all. We're not going to try, we're going to do it eventually. But the first book that I want to do, the first, book, it is a book, I think. Last time I checked, these are what you call books. Is the Pathfinder Occult Adventures. This is a new one from the wonderful folks at Paizo. And Wes, the editor-in-chief himself, handed me this book at Gen Con. I think he knows. What does he know? I'll tell you what he knows. I'm Dr. Jeff Goins. My PhD, my doctorate degree, is in metaphysics, and I focus very heavily on paranormal science. With my study of quantum physics and extra-dimensional stuff and membranes and M theory and blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. This is not a review of my education. However, this is a view of my interest. And this Occult Adventures has a very near and dear spot in my heart, in my physical heart, and my metaphysical heart. You can find it at paizo.com/Pathfinder. And it is OGL compatible, 3.5 of Pathfinder, so you know. It goes for $44.99, and I will say right off the bat, worth every penny. So let's take a look, shall we? In this, and I'll see how many more times I can say as I go. There's one. Let's not count. Wow. Okay, so this book is it's divided into 7 chapters, and it contains all things of the occult nature, which you know when you think of mages, the magus, the magi, and the odd gifts thereof, you think of occult. But this is more than that. This is not just a wizard's handbook or a sorcerer's handbook. This is a book that has a bunch of new classes. And I will say, in Chapter 1, it has the occult classes, which are the kineticist, the medium, the mesmerist, the occultist, the psychic, and the spiritualist. Okay. So, what does it mean? Well, the kineticist is someone who can move things with their minds, and elements like Firestarter and Airbenders, not like that horrible M. Night Shyamalan Madama Ding Dong movie, where and if you liked it, I'm sorry that you liked it, because it was crap. No, I didn't care for it much. M. Night Shyamalan's funny because it's either a complete hit, as in because I loved Lady in the Water and Unbreakable, and the other one that I really like. And then there were movies like The Happening and, oh my God, The Village. Just abysmal. A really bad, over-serious episode of Scooby-Doo. Right? And, of course, comment. Tell me what you think of it. It might change my mind. My mind is malleable. So, anyway, the kineticist is someone who can move things with their minds. And it has an entire... We'll get into depth with this, because this is going to be a really in-depth review. The medium, which is someone who can channel spirits. My grandmother was a medium. I am a medium as well, though I may look like a 2XL. I said that. And the kinetic, all these classes have their own spells or an equivalent thereof. For example, the kineticist has wild talents. Ooh. The spiritualist has phantoms. The psychic, of course, has psychic spells, which, sure, I can see that. And it explains them well, better than I just did. But the medium, then you have the mesmerist, who's like a hypnosis dude, like you are getting sleepy and very generous with your coin purse, my good man, and or madam. The occultist is, of course, someone who deals with witchcraft and witchery and magic that way, and deals with demons like demonologists and stuff. And they have their different implement schools according to the book. Then you have the psychic, of course, which is, they have a very vast friends network. and they went out of business, which makes you wonder why they didn't know that was going to happen. The spiritualist, and that's an old joke, by the way, so don't even bother laughing. I understand. The spiritualist is someone, because I am also a spiritualist in real life, and the spiritualist knows about spirits and the machinations thereof, the macadamia nuts thereof. Okay, so in chapter 2, we have archetypes, which explains the kineticists, the mediums, and all those guys. Then chapter 3, it goes over feats. Chapter 4, it goes into the explanation of psychic magic, which is something that we're going to cover here briefly. The only thing about this book that I really don't care for a whole lot is the glossy pages. You know how I am. I prefer a semi-gloss. Even a matte at points is okay, because I've got this glare thing, and when I look at something and all the lights, especially when I have the studio lights up, it's just like, so that's kind of a pain for me. But in chapter 5 is occult rites, and that's not like you are empowered to do this because it is your occult right to do so. This is not that. That is wrong. Occult rites and occult rules and skill unlocks and all that stuff is all about the rules for the occult. Put it that way, because it covers occult rituals, psychic duels, possession, chakras, third eye, and this one and that one and a couple further down below, and hands and so forth. You have 7. Then in chapter 6 you have running an occult game. And in chapter 7, did I say 6? I said 6. It was 6. Chapter 6, you have running an occult game that it takes new haunt rules. It gives you new haunt rules, loci spirits, new haunts, ley lines, and landscapes. Mindscapes. Landscapes is what you walk across. Mindscapes is what you dream across. And there was a movie way back when, with, I believe it was Joseph Bottoms, correct me if I'm wrong, called Mindscape, and it was all about dreaming. Freddy Krueger lives in a mindscape, and you don't when he does. And it talks about the esoteric planes. Then in chapter 7 it covers occult rewards and adventuring gear, alchemical items, magic items, cursed items, and artifacts. And then, of course, goes on to the index, which is very comprehensive. So, let us begin by talking about a few of these classes. Of course, Paizo is a company that I know some of the people who work at Paizo, and they're all really cool people. I don't know if I've met anyone at Paizo who wasn't a cool guy and or chick. Doesn't matter to me anyway. They're all the same, and they're cool about it. So, but it reading over the Pathfinder books, I know why it's so popular, because it is replete with I want to say coolness. So I will coolness that you can tell that gamers wrote the material, or at least people who know how gamers think, right? So all of their, it's all organized very nicely. Of course, the artwork is top notch. It's always Wayne Reynolds is always a I'm a fan. I don't like fanboy at anybody, but he's always a reliable artist, and he's got that signature style. But it also has artists like David Alvarez, Roger van der Beek. I'm probably saying that entirely wrong. Subroto Baumek, Tomas Kristowski, Philippe Escobar, and the list goes on. There's quite a few artists in this book, and they're all really, really cool. Except one, there is one piece of artwork that I have to mention, because I don't know why it is so difficult for artists all over the fantasy world to get this wrong. And it's not even in this book, so never mind. It's in the Ultimate Combat. I've been looking at all of them, so I'll get to that when I get to this book. So, chapter 1, we have talking about the various occult classes. Now, I'll go over this, and we'll discuss it a little bit here. The kineticist with a connection to the elements. A kineticist can bring forth energy in the form of kinetic blasts. Instead of casting psychic spells, the kineticist uses unique psychic spell-like abilities called wild talents to manipulate elemental energy and matter. So you can have a fire starter, you can have like an airbender type, an earthbender. You could totally go you could go all out with the whole bender idea with kineticists. And you could play a campaign with just kineticists doing like earthbending and so forth. I keep going back to earthbending because I believe that I would probably be an earthbender if I had a bending event in a bento box. Okay, so then the medium, by contacting spirits in places of power, the medium allows the personalities of legendary heroes to overcome his own, vastly changing his abilities and spells. He holds seances to benefit himself and his allies. I've seen it done in real life. It works. My grandma, as I said before, and you may doubt me, then that's fine. I appreciate skepticism because I'm also a scientist, right? So without skepticism, science is faith, and it's not science. So you have to be skeptical of everything, question everything, like EA Games, challenge everything. The mesmerist's piercing stare lets him insinuate himself into other people's minds. You are getting sleepy, but you're not, so because you're watching the rest of this video. The master of enchantment and illusion, the mesmerist controls and influences the behavior of others. Settle down. The occultist, to make use of his powers, an occultist channels psychic energy into a varied collection of antiques and mementos like, put them in Diet Coke, with storied pasts. Every type of implement, I'll get it, allows him to use a different school of magic. Now, with the medium, what they're talking about primarily is channeling for that, speaking the spirits through things. And the occultist is more like a psychometrist, because psychometry is the art, or I guess it's an art, or a talent where you can put your hand on something and feel its history, know who's touched it. There was a movie with Jeff Goldblum and Cyndi Lauper and Peter Falk, where he was a psychometrist, and Jeff Goldblum was a psychometrist. I can't remember the name of that flick, but it was actually pretty decent, I thought. I enjoyed it. Then you have the psychic. With her incredibly potent mind, the psychic can cast spells that are more powerful than those of members of members of any other occult class. That may be a typo. I may be reading it wrong. She accesses these spells through a specific discipline and can bend and amplify psychic spells as she casts them. So she's like a mind bender. We'll go back to that whole bending thing. I don't know why I keep going there. All right, so then you have the spiritualist, who is attuned to the spirits of the dead. A spiritualist forms a bond with a phantom, a returned spirit that has unfinished business but did not become undead. The spectral ally can alternate between forms, emerging from the safety of the spiritualist's mind to take on an incorporeal form or an ectoplasmic body. So, there you have it. It's like your spiritual buddy. And it's also kind of like channeling, and it's kind of like Whoopi Goldberg in the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze. So there's always a movie for reference to give you an idea, because ghost spirits were following Whoopi around and giving her problems. So yeah, and then when it goes into in depth with can't speak. When it goes in depth with each individual new class, it does an excellent job of giving that class the appropriate attention and detail. You're not really left. I wasn't really left without knowing something. For example, the elemental blasts. You've got air blast, cold, earth, electric, fire, telekinetic, water, etheric. No, that's a boost. Blizzard blast, blue flame, charged water, force blast, ice blast, magma blast, metal blast, etc., etc. And each of these does a kind of a generic amount of damage. It's 1d6 plus 1, plus the kineticist's constitution modifier, increasing by 1d6 plus 1 for every 2 kineticist's levels beyond first. So you get the blast at first level, and then you get another d6 plus 1 at 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, etc. So by the time you're like 9th or 11th level, you're boom, like foos, Heroda. So, and there's that. And each one has its own power. I mean, its own. Obviously, because, if you can't just say it's just an elemental blast. You'd have to give it, because if you elemental blast ice against like a white dragon, it's not really going to do anything. So it's important to know what kind of blast you are blasting of it. At 2. Then it has a number of wild talents, and let's see. So the wild talents are for example, Simple Blast. Kineticist gains a Simple Blast from her primary, and it's going to be him or her, but they don't want to write that every time, so they alternate between him and her because that's what people are doing these days, and that's fine. Some elements offer more than one option. When a kineticist gains a new element via the expanded element class feature, she gains a Simple Blast from that element as well. So it looks like kinetic blast, elemental defense. 7th level is expanded element, and 15th level is expanded element, and so forth. So yeah, there you have it. So you could choose, like if you're 17th level, you could have like earth and air and hot frogs, or steam and hot frogs. They kind of go together. Yeah. So then you have wild talents, which is each one of them have a type, like an element, like a type. They have an element and a type. Defense element, like flesh of stone, is earth element, and the type is defense, and it has a burn rating, and the elemental burn. And I will go back here where it talks about it. First level kineticist can overexert herself to channel more power than normal, pushing past the limit of what is safe for her body by accepting burn. Some of her wild talents allow her to accept burn in exchange for greater effect, while others require her to accept a certain amount of burn to use that talent at all. So some of the higher power ones are very taxing, so of course. For each point of burn she accepts, a kineticist takes 1 point of non-lethal damage per character level. This damage can't be healed by any means other than getting a full night's rest, which removes all burn and associated non-lethal damage. Non-lethal damage from burn can't be reduced or redirected into kinetic because it's coming from inside. You're like channeling all this energy, all this elemental energy. And a kineticist is incapable of taking non-lethal damage, can't accept burn. The kineticist can only accept only 1 point of burn per round. This limit rises to 2 points of burn at 6th level and rises by an additional 1 point every 3 levels thereafter. So it's something that you're kind of earning the ability to push yourself farther. For example, let's say a novice runner may not be able to get that second wind that veteran joggers and runners can do. And while they're pushing themselves past the point of comfort, it's damaging. I mean, I've seen people, and I'm sure you have too, seen people who have run marathons that have, their bowels have cut loose and they've urinated all over themselves and they're vomited. They look a right mess. But they had to go in and get that energy and get that oomph to make it through the final legs of the race. And a newbie wouldn't necessarily know how to do that, and they may be grateful for that fact. So that is, and then of course the wild talents range. They range wildly, like explosion, and a flurry of blasts and mobile blast and hello. The kinetic whip, and so forth. And all of the classes, as I shall point out, such as the medium and their spirits. Mediums have taboos. You got the Ouija board thing here. And the medium spells, mesmerist. You are getting sleepy. Hypnotic stare, mesmerist tricks, because we all know it's fake, and so forth. So each class has its own very particular set of abilities that set them apart from the other occult class and other player character classes, just period. Which I'm really I'm always impressed by Paizo's writers' ability to do things like that. To make the character class not just another type of ranger or not just another type of sorcerer in this case, and it's always very refreshing that they do so. So the other thing is the one thing I wanted to mention. Well, I'll wait until the end of the book, the end of the review, to mention what I was going to mention. But that is chapter 1. I'll be back in the next video with the next obvious chapter, which is chapter 2, and we'll see where we go from there, and see how far that takes us, because it's a really good book, near and dear to my heart. And don't forget to look them up at paizo.com/Pathfinder, and order this book, or wherever it is available. Probably on Amazon and probably in the bookstores by now. Don't forget to look us up at www.dwarventavern.net. Leave comments and all that good stuff. We love a good comment, and I try to answer them all. And also, do not forget that we want for you. We wish for you. It is wish first and want second. We wish for you to want for nothing but adventure. And at first I feared it, then I charged. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Let the